Breaking news in college football where the Holiday Bowl between UCLA and NC State has been canceled because of COVID. Fox Sports reports that the Bruins defensive line was particularly impacted. The game was supposed to kick off at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight in San Diego. It's now the fifth bowl game to be canceled because of the virus. Now here is a look at some of the other games that had been canceled because of COVID-19. The Hawaii Bowl between Memphis and Hawaii, Boston College, Eastern Carolina, and the Military Bowl also called off. SMU, Virginia, and the first Fenway Bowl, that one canceled as well. Boise State, Central Michigan, and the Arizona Bowl, that one called off just over the last couple of days. Let's go ahead and now bring in Chip Patterson, one of the hosts of the Cover 3 podcast. And Chip, we take a look at these two teams, NC State and UCLA, two teams that look like they were heading in the right direction. You know, how unfortunate and upsetting is this for those two programs?
Very upsetting for these two programs, and honestly upsetting for college football fans. When we were detailing some of the most intriguing and exciting bowl matchups, especially in this sort of pre-playoff period of the calendar, this was one of them. You had two great quarterbacks, UCLA's Dorian Thompson-Robinson, NC State's Devin Leary. You had two teams that would be very excited to get here. Chip Kelly getting the Bruins into the postseason with 8 wins, and NC State right on the doorstep of winning 10 games, something that is not very common in the Wolfpack's football history. Now, I think we saw from the point spread, Wolfpack favored by 2, that this was supposed to be a game that was very, very competitive. And so to get these two teams to square off against each other in San Diego, a lot of excitement, and all of that excitement gone. Again, for NC State, the players, they got all the way out there. They did at least get a little bit of a bowl experience, but man, football players want to play football. And so for them to get all the way to the day of the game, hours before kickoff, and not be able to go out there, very disappointing. Again, we find this out. This comes from the UCLA side, where it's just a numbers game. And as we start to look ahead and start to think about COVID-19's impact on the postseason, it's really going to come down to numbers.
Yeah, looking at the clock right now, it's 3:41 on the East. So, I mean, we're literally just over 4 hours away from this game kicking off. Chip, I want to ask you about the college football playoff, because I think that's where everyone's mind goes. Now that we're up to 5 cancellations because of COVID, we've seen everything from practices and media days shut down, everything going virtual. Is there a real fear now that the CFP may not take place?
There is concern that it will be impacted. I do not have fear that it will not take place and that it will have the same sort of result of this. Because remember, I said it's a numbers game. Because the reason that these games are getting canceled is because the schools cannot field teams. And they cannot field teams not just because of COVID-19, but also because of injuries, opt-outs, and transfers. And I'll tell you that of those different reasons, I don't think we have as many opt-outs and transfers when we're talking about Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, and Cincinnati. You're competing for a national championship. You're not in the transfer portal. You're not opting out of the college football playoff. And so some of the same numbers games that have been a really big deal for a team like UCLA, for a team like a Boise State, for some of these other programs that have not been able to make it, they cannot field enough players at the position groups. Again, injuries, opt-outs, transfers. You don't have as many opt-outs and transfers. I think we will still have games taking place as scheduled, but COVID-19 absolutely could have an impact, and how much of an impact it has could go a long way in determining our national champion.
Yeah, again, player safety, obviously the key here. That's why schools are backing out. As you mentioned, you get too many of these COVID cases, and they don't have enough players to field these teams. Now, can you update us on the rules for the CFP? Obviously, things have changed in the last week, because we could have an instance where maybe, let's say the Cotton Bowl doesn't happen. Then what happens?
Well, right now, if one team cannot participate based on the most recent agreed upon rules, you could advance to the national championship. I do not believe that we are in a position where a national championship could be determined by a forfeiture, for example. So I think that just as we've seen the conferences go back and review their protocol for isolation in COVID-19, it's possible that the college football playoff could make a last-minute change to its protocols. But they came out with a very hardline stance that if you are unable to field a team and the other side has met the requirements to get out there and play in the semifinals, that you can advance to the national championship game by forfeiture. But as far as the national championship game, I think that is yet to be determined, at least to my knowledge.
And as, of course, we lead up to the CFP, which is, of course, Friday, December 31st on New Year's, any games between then and now you foresee being in jeopardy because of COVID?
Every single one of them. I mean, how much time you got? Like, this is a situation where every single coach is currently concerned about whether or not they are going to have the numbers required to be able to go out and play. So it's something that's on everyone's mind throughout all of college sports.
All right, Chip Patterson, thank you so much for joining us to break all that down. Once again, the Holiday Bowl between UCLA and NC State has been canceled. It was supposed to be played tonight at 8. That is now the 5th bowl game canceled this bowl season. Remember, you can catch Chip Patterson on the Cover 3 podcast on our CBS Sports podcast.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.